Just kidding, welcome to my Star Wars book reviews. Today, I am reviewing the first two books in the Thrawn Trilogy by Timothy Zahn. And the first two books are Heir to the Empire and Dark Force Rising. Now, if anyone had seen my first video, you would say, Cody, I thought you were an experienced Star Wars nerd. Why are you reading, like, the quintessential newbie books? And here's why. When I started reading Star Wars, I started with the Han Solo trilogies, and I read probably every book that fell into place between the original trilogy movies. Then I started reading the Clone Wars novels, and then just finally, when I was essentially mostly caught up with all the books that are out now, I started reading, Truce at Bakura, Luke Skywalker and the Shadows of Mindor, and now I'm on the Thrawn Trilogy. I'm actually reading The Last Command right now, and it's the best one, I think. But I'm here to honestly review these two books. So back in '92, before there were ever any Star Wars Expanded Universe novels, an award-winning science fiction author, Timothy Zahn, was asked to, continue the story. And now we know that there's several books that take place between Return of the Jedi and this book, but at the time, this was the only book. And I think, even without reading those books that fall between them, that it is by far superior to a lot of the other Star Wars books, regardless of where they are in the timeline. That Timothy Zahn, this was my first Zahn book, and he really captured the magic of the Star Wars movies. It's very clear cut and it's to the point, unlike this review, which seems to drag on a little. But my cameraman's looking at me. But yeah, he really captured it well. I'm not going to say it was my favorite Star Wars book, because it isn't. My favorite Star Wars book, and it's probably gonna, it would be debatable with a lot of people, but my favorite Star Wars book was The Courtship of Princess Leia. But I would have to say, this is definitely top 3 for sure. So, as for the actual story, the story's excellent. Like I said, it's clear-cut, you follow it, you don't get confused. And when you do get confused, if you keep reading it, like 3 pages next, that mystery is solved! And it just makes for an enjoyable read. And I read it pretty quickly. So yeah, if you want a clear-cut, good story, start reading this series. And it's probably the only time you can ex-nay on my rule of having to read the After Return of the Jedi books in order, because it was designed to without those other books in mind. Now, just quickly, Dark Force Rising. I'll say, top 10, still very clear. In my top 10, not my top 3. Still very clear-cut, good, to the point, though I found the whole thing with a certain Bothan to be very pointless and dragged on. But perhaps in The Last Command, it'll start making more sense to me, because I'm about halfway through that book. So anyways, very good series, very good Star Wars author. I'm excited to read more of his books. And if you want a clear-cut, to-the-point story that deals with Jedi and Wookiees, you should definitely read the Thrawn Trilogy. And check out the other books that come before it, though, because it really it'll set you up for something great. The calm before the storm.